All right, this is Coroner David Ott, and of course we have Lieutenant Eric Callandine, and mine is welcome. I know you have a lot of questions. I know there's a lot of information that a lot of people in the public want. I know that, and you're the advocates, to make sure that they get the answers to all those questions, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate all your questions. But keep in mind that we're going to be limited to a certain extent as to what information we share. We're going to try to share as much as we can. That way everyone will have kind of a understanding of the past 11 days. But at the same time, we're going to be very respectful to the family. And we're going to keep a lot of information to ourselves for the time being until we find a point in time. If there's information that we can release that benefits the community and benefits these type scenarios in the future, then we'll release that information. But if it's just trying to get really too deep into it, we're not going to go in that direction. So today I am a referee. I have all the information behind me, and I will referee the information that we can release. So why don't we do this to try to help you? I'll get Eric to go over a timeline that may be some benefit to you and understanding where we're at and what we're doing. And he can fill you in on a timeline as to how we actually got a call for service, what we did, who we worked with to get that done, and he can kind of fill those gaps in for the last 11 days. Okay? Lieutenant?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right, so this investigation began on August 16th with the family calling into our dispatch saying their missing loved one, Stanley Kotowski, was missing. The call came in about 12:42 p.m. When we arrived on scene, the family had said they had already tried to search for him and that they think he went missing around 10:30 in the morning. They didn't have an exact time. The family members would be the wife and two family friends who were traveling together. They traveled down here on August 11th, flew down from Massachusetts to stay at 226 South Sea Pines Drive in a villa at that complex. So we arrived on scene. They said, last we knew, Stanley was wearing a gray shirt, dark shorts, and they said they did have this Ring video, but they didn't have access to it because it was not theirs, it was the homeowners. So the sheriff's office then started dispatching personnel to the area along with Sea Pine Security, who was vital in this search during the entire time frame. So the officers right on scene began fanning out, looking for this gentleman, and we started gathering more information from the family. The family had told us that he was paranoid and that he was going through a mental health crisis, and they had sought medical attention days prior for that mental health. As we progressed, we had the canine units come out, 3 dogs for the canine team. They did an article search along with a free air sniff throughout the entire complex. We did not locate any evidence at that time. By then we started getting the Ring video from the unit itself, which showed Stanley leaving out of the unit barefoot with the Coors Light t-shirt on, the dark shorts, and he left going out of the unit and heading towards the right. With that information, family, law enforcement, Sea Pine Security started searching the area through different villas. We contacted Sea Pine Security, who helped us go through the Sea Pines Homeowners Association and the local property management groups, who allowed us to go into certain villas that were unoccupied to clear them. So as that progressed, we started, obviously had the media release go out, Nixle release about the missing person. We started getting phone tips in throughout those several days about, hey, we may have saw him in Bluffton. My mom thought they saw him on the beach. So we started having more and more tips come in that we had to track down, look for video. We started to be able to locate certain places that he may have traveled. So we started gathering video from the Salty Dog, which is right next to this unit in the general area. Also the pickleball courts in the general area, they both had video. We started gathering that video, reviewing it. At one point we had a person of interest on the video, but it was so far away we could not tell it was him. We started trying to gather more video at that time to determine if it was him at the Salty Dog. Ultimately, it was unfortunately not him. So we went back out in the public asking for, hey, look at your Ring cameras. We had sent emails out. Sea Pines Homeowner Association was vital. We sent a huge email out blast to all the residents inside of Sea Pines who had homes there, asking again for villas, if they had video from the villas or their homes themselves. Then we went to the next thing of having our drones come in. We had multiple drones fly to different areas. We had DNR, Coast Guard, along with the Beaufort County helicopter, start doing flights in the area, looking for any kind of clues. We checked the marshes, we checked the docks in that area because of the tidal marshes. Then we started canvassing door to door with the help of Hilton Head Fire and Rescue, Bluffton PD, Sea Pines Security, and we covered a vast majority of the south end of Sea Pines, going door to door, asking these people if they've seen anything, had they checked their surrounding yards, their outhouses, any kind of structures in their yards themselves. We asked if they had video cameras, and from there we started gathering a list of everyone who had video surveillance, Ring door cams, to ask them again, go back and check. And the one thing I want to say is, the residents of Sea Pines, the people staying there, every single person we interacted with knew about Stanley. They knew he was missing, they had seen a poster of him, they'd got an email blast, and they were actually out there searching themselves. So I'm very thankful for the community itself for what they did during this whole endeavor. Social media, we had people going, like I said, putting posters up. Restaurant community was helpful with the family. So again, the amount of support that the family received, not only from law enforcement, but all these entities. So I just want to make sure we thank Sea Pines Security itself, the Sea Pines Homeowner Association, the Hilton Head Fire and Rescue, Bluffton PD, the Hilton Head Chamber of Commerce, who was able to help me provide for every property management group owner out there, was able to email and contact all of them to ask them to check their villas, because Sea Pines has over 6,000 villas. That's a huge amount of villas for us to check. So we relied upon property management groups, homeowners to check their villas or contact us, which they did. We had plenty of people who contacted us who don't live in Sea Pines, they live out of state. Hey, can you go check my unit? They gave us permission to go in to check those units to make sure they were unoccupied. Like I said, the town of Hilton Head was vital, also providing us renter information for various places because of short-term rentals, so we used them as well. And social media. We couldn't have done this without you getting as much information out about Stanley, him missing, his last known location, obviously the video snips we sent out. So thankful to the community and everyone involved to help find Stanley. Obviously the outcome we didn't want, but we did bring closure to the family of locating him several days later. Going so far?
Whatever else you
Okay.
can add to it. I'll cut you off if
All right.
you're the wrong direction.
Okay. So the day of the incident where he was located, obviously Sea Pine Security, along with the Sheriff's Office, were on our daily canvass of the area. Sea Pine Security Officer walked the neighborhood, the villas again, and he smelled something that was a foul odor. Immediately saw that there were some flies in the area, and he contacted the Sheriff's Office. We responded out there. We were able to search around the building, and it was not easy to find where exactly we could have access to go to find underneath the house in the crawl space. We thought we could try going underneath the deck. We tried that, cannot have access to underneath the deck to get to the crawl space. They ended up finding a hatch that was by the outdoor shower on the deck itself. Removed the hatch, officer went down, took the flashlight around, didn't see anything, had to crawl into the crawl space around some pillars to finally locate the body. At that point, we secured the scene, get the hold of the coroner's office, and worked it from there as far as the crime scene itself. Once we were able to determine through the coroner's office, which David and I will talk about, we were able to identify it was Stanley.
Yeah, one of the things we're not going to release is we're not going to release the actual location where the body was recovered. There are still people there in this community, in this area, that are here on vacation. So we're trying to also be respectful for them while they're here. But the area was, when I'd say, 150, 200 yards max from the last video scene that we have was Stanley walking out and then going to the right. Well, of course, that is the direction of where he was found. So we'll stop it there for a minute, and Coroner?
Thank you, Sheriff. Morning. Based upon the examination of the deceased yesterday, he was found to be wearing the same clothing that he's had on the last day he's seen, which was August the 16th, correct? Yes. For instance, autopsy was completed on Mr. Kotowski Stanley this morning. Cause of death is asphyxiation by hanging. Manner of death is a suicide, unfortunately. And at this time, that is all the coroner's office is going to release. We did make a positive identification based upon additional information that we received this morning, not just of what he was found wearing. I'm not going to get into what that was, but he is positively identified, and we're going to leave it at that. And we thank y'all for your help.
Thank you, Coroner. Questions?
So, Sheriff, the family actually reported to us yesterday that Stanley was found 4 houses down. Obviously, y'all talked about searching that area. Y'all have gone out there every single day. You had bloodhounds at one point. How is it that he was not found for so long, being so relatively close to where he went missing from?
Great question. I had the same question. But once I had an opportunity to review where Stanley was found, where the body was recovered, I completely understand how he was not found until there was some evidence or clues that led us in that direction. This is a very secluded area. It's underneath townhomes, so it's a building, a block, and I think there's 2 townhomes in each block. And it's a crawl space that is no more than 3 feet high. And it's would be the best example that once you get down in that crawl space, which is very unusual, the entry point for the crawl space is it's very unique, and then it's very small. And to even consider that being an entry point for the crawl space is something that you would probably overlook, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense on how that would be the crawl space entry point. And then once you get underneath the building, it's kind of a maze. You have to go several different directions because you have concrete pillars that are underneath the area. It's a sandy ground. It's a cool environment. It's, even though we've had a good bit of heat, over, and some cold front came through, but we've had heat. It's actually the environment underneath this townhome was fairly cool. So initially I had the same question, but once I had an opportunity to review everything, then I completely understand how that is very possible that area could be overlooked.
Let me ask you this. When I think of crawl space, I think of a space, 2 or 3 feet tall, not much room to really do anything. The coroner just told us that he hung himself. I assume he hung himself there. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, can you describe it all or give any details about how y'all believe he was able to hang himself in that crawl space?
Well, I think your description of what you believe a crawl space is accurate, because I think at maximum there's about 3 feet from the ground to the flooring in this particular area. So going into details as to the manner of death, I'm not. Next question.
Let's piggyback off that. To hang yourself, right, as an adult male, it's not going to happen somewhere that there's only 3 feet. Are we suspecting somehow that he gets from another space to the crawl space after hanging himself? How does that?
Well, I'll ask the coroner because I mean I know when you use the word hanging, there's an assumption made by everyone because of the word itself. What would be the other word you would use as other than a hanging, based on what we know, would be a suffocation asphyxiation?
It's definitely an asphyxiation, but there's no other word other than a hanging. Unfortunately, people believe that a hanging means you rope up to a ceiling and you drop. It's definitely not like that. There's a lot of deaths that we've worked in this county where, believe it or not, it's 2 doorknobs. It's mainly cutting off the flow. I won't get into details on how it happened or anything like that, but the cause and manner of death, again, is asphyxiation by hanging, with the manner of death being suicide.
Do you see where our confusion is though? If this crawl space is like really difficult to get into, the officer doesn't even see it when he first goes down with the flashlight.
You know, we're not going to tell you any more than that, and I can understand how you're not visualizing. I mean, you're visualizing using the word hanging, but in this particular scenario, I'll go as far as say is that there was an apparatus used to reduce the amount of oxygen you could actually take in. So that is my definition of this hanging.
Thank you.
Okay? Questions?
Did he bring the items to hang himself with him, or do y'all believe that perhaps this was an accident that, like Tyler was saying, he may have gotten caught, you know, kind of trying to move around a little bit, or he was intentionally?
Good question without an answer. Next question.
I wanted to ask about search parties. I know there was one that was formulated and was actively searching when the discovery was made. Some people were concerned that a search party hadn't been organized before then. I wanted to ask about how those parties, if they need to be approved by the sheriff's office, and if not, kind of how that process works for organizing that and getting it out.
And I know Eric will correct me if I'm wrong, but...
And by search party, I'm sorry, I mean like a public search.
Sure. I think they were...
Not done by deputies.
Right. There was one scheduled to assist in the search, and I think they were going to start yesterday at 1. And that was called off by the family. I know the family was given information prior to 1 o'clock that a body was identified and that we were working that particular scenario. So they called the search party off that were to begin at 1 o'clock until more information could be provided to them about what we were currently doing. So, you know, that happened around 11:30. So.
And are search parties in general, are they required to be approved by the sheriff's office, or are they set up independently?
You know, I think that in this particular case, that question came to me a few days ago, and my position was if the community and Seapine Security and Joe Count, the director of security for Seapines, if they were comfortable with that being done within the Seapines community, then we were absolutely comfortable with it. So I actually left that decision to Seapine Security and the HOA and the community itself. I'm not going to approve a civilian volunteer group to go into a private community and do things unless the community welcomes that help. And but it was called off for no other reason than we were given information to the family around 11:30. And they decided just to call off the search. It started at 1 until they could find out and get more information.
The family's been very supportive of you guys with everything that you did. The public is a little less supportive of your canine officers and how that was handled. Is there any way to understand the distance from the road or why it may have been so difficult, other than the fact he was tucked in, for them to catch a scent if possible?
Well, I mean, I think there's a variety of questions in what you're asking. If you could streamline that, because you kind of bounced all over the place. If you could streamline that, it would be a help. Some, I mean, if there are members of the community, as you put it, that dissatisfied, I think as you put it, with the canine officers, which are four-legged dogs, our canine folks. We're very proud of them, and they do a wonderful job. But not going into the environment and talking about the environment, I'm not concerned about the fact that they could not locate what people would assume a dog could find. You know, dogs are great. They're great tools. I love them. but they're limited as to what they can do. And the environment that we're talking about where this Marty was out, I'm not shocked or surprised that the dogs did not alert because of what I know about this particular area. So I'm not surprised by it. I hope that the general public garners a better respect and love for our K-9 crews because they do a wonderful job.
David, as far as the autopsy goes, is there a way to know how long he was deceased?
We're estimating approximate time or date of death would be the date that he went missing on August the 16th. Time is undetermined.
Sheriff, you guys have missing people, unfortunately, that happen in Beaufort County. We get the releases on a regular basis.
Right.
Is this sort of a call for people to go, remember, there are a lot of missing people out there, and that you guys are working hard, and the public needs to work just as hard to try to find them?
Hey, look, I think all of us, you take a look in this room. I think the work that y'all do, the questions you ask, the work that you do, the publication, the stuff that you do that helps this community is, you're a newsworthy news outlet, okay? But the information you provide to the general public about stuff like this is extremely important, and I appreciate you doing what you do. But you know, if there is a message in any of this, we have got to be more attentive to mental illness. And you know, we do get a lot of cases. We get a lot of calls. You know, we're living in a community where our population, like myself, I'm not going to talk about anybody else, but as you can see by my gray hair, we live in a population where there's a lot of folks that kind of look like me. So we're getting a lot older, so there are other things that kind of go in line with that. So we do get our fair share of calls. But just like Eric said, and we find this often when we're searching for those, that if it's a missing child or someone with Alzheimer's, or you know, in a particular case like this that has you know, a mental challenge, and you know, the community just goes. I mean, you can look at Facebook postings, you can look at social media. Everyone's concerned. Everyone wants to find the person alive and healthy and well, and return them to their family. And we feel the same way. So we appreciate what y'all do, and all of us and all of this working in concert with each other is how we are able to do in a very high percentile, how we are able to find so many people so quickly. This case is a little different. Some of them are, but this one is definitely a little different.
Sheriff, I wonder if you or Lieutenant or whoever had a conversation with the family and broke that news with the family. How difficult of a conversation is that after such investment in finding Stanley, hoping that he's alive? And you know, what kind of things do you say to the family to kind of get them through this difficult moment?
Well, you know, look, I've been doing this a long time, and I've done my fair share of bad news deliveries, and nothing about it is something you look forward to doing. And I'm not going to, you know, go into detail as to what kind of conversations we have, or the comments we make, or the words we use, or it's an individual thing. You know, Eric and I would do things different, just like the coroner and I would do things different if we were making notifications. I think notifications collectively over the years, I think the coroner has probably made more than his fair share of notifications. And there's nothing about it that's easy. There's a lot of emotion. But, you know, Lieutenant Calendine and all of our men and women south, to include Seapine Security and Hilton Head Fire and all the volunteers and everyone that worked, you know, it's very deflating after you've invested so much time and energy and planning and then hoping for the best, and then end up, you know, in a scenario like we had yesterday. And the same investigators that are investigating and trying to find these persons that are missing are also the same investigators that suit up and go underneath the house to work a crime scene in a 3-foot crawl space. The same ones that were out there searching days and days before are the same ones that are identifying and processing and collecting evidence and doing the things that they do. So all of it it's challenging. But, hey, look, they do a wonderful job. I think they did an outstanding job, our canines included, and, you know, we just wish the outcome was different.
Have arrangements been made to send the body back to Massachusetts? And then second question onto that, the family, do they remain here in Hilton Head, or have they returned home at this point?
We're gonna keep that for the family's privacy of how, or when, or who they choose, and we will not discuss that at this time.
So you can't tell me if you're sending the body back?
I will not, cannot discuss that at this time. We will, that's immaterial, folks. We had a bad ending. Let's keep it where we got it right now, and we're not gonna get into that. Thank you.
David, when your people are looking and examining this body, the family has said that it's the person that didn't have dementia or early onset Alzheimer's or anything like that, but we know that that's a really tough diagnosis. When you're in there and looking at the brain, did you see any signs of that?
We will not discuss anything from the autopsy other than the cause and manner. Thank you.
Questions? We're running out of time. Y'all good? Eric, can you think of anything that we didn't talk about?
We were actually less than a
Come
mile
on.
away. Less than a mile away, we're actually
Oh, that's
working
right, I forgot about that.
another dead body scene, really close to the location. So at that point during yesterday, we had two bodies that we were dealing with in a close proximity to one another. So it was kind of a unique situation of these two calls at the same time, which obviously had different resources from the sheriff's office working along with the coroner's office, having obviously two bodies in the same area. So that was another incident of something else going on at the same time.
Can you give us details on what that was?
It was,
It was.
The body at the boardwalk was a construction worker. He is due to have autopsy at my office, we believe this afternoon. If time prevails, we'll do that one. So until we complete that, we won't have nothing else on that.
Go ahead.
And also of note, which I can't release anything on because I don't have it, have not had time, we did have a fatality out there on Highway 170, Roberts Falls Parkway this morning. So y'all can check back in later on this afternoon. I should have some information on that. My deputy coroner was still out on the office when I came in to this conference. Thank you.
And I'll say this in closing, and I'm glad you remembered that because we talked about it earlier, but, you know, here we are with a scenario involving Stanley at 11:30-ish time frame, and then we get another call of a deceased person on the beach. So we were very, very careful about how we were going to send nixles out in this type scenario because it did add some confusion, and I'm sure it could have been very confusing for the community. And we delayed the nixle for several hours because we didn't want to create complete chaos in an area such as what we were in. So it was a lot going on there. We didn't want to make things worse by sending out nixles and confusing everyone because we knew the difference. It just was all happening within an hour and a half of each other. I think the call for the other medical call, which was a medical call, was like 10 minutes to 1?
yes.
Yeah, so.
Sheriff, my last thing here, y'all just talked about how much is going on at the same time. You know, you've got deputies all over the county. It's ginormous. It's huge. I've got a lot going on. Talk about the strain emotionally and physically that this type of event, looking for someone, trying to find any sort of hints, clues, anything. How difficult is that for your deputies on a daily basis and then ultimately finding out he's dead?
Well, I think that one of the attractions to law enforcement, one of the attractions to being a first responder, if it's fire, EMS, or law enforcement, is the challenge. I mean, I've been in this over 40 years, and I see it today the same as I saw it when I started this job. So it is a challenge, but it's very rewarding in a lot of different ways. You're going to find and you're going to have those days where you put your heart and soul and all your energy into a particular investigation, to find the end result that you had wished all along would have been different. Well, a lot of times they're not. So you condition yourself to do what's required that we do. And we've got some unbelievable men and women that not only work at the sheriff's office, but in law enforcement and first responders. They do an amazing job, and they're all hoping for the best. I mean, all these men and women are married with children and dogs. I might add the canine factor in again. And they're very, very supportive of their families, and you know, they're you know, law enforcement officers, first responders, they're no different than you. You chose this profession because you're inquisitive, and you find a challenge in putting the puzzles together. But you know, every day you go home to your families and you hug your wife and kids and or significant other, and you go about your day. But we're no different. We just, you know, we take, you know, a lot of criticism about our canines from time to time, but other than that, you know, we just do things just like you do. They do a wonderful job. We're very, very proud of them. Again, we wish the outcome was completely different than what it is, but we are trained to do this. We're conditioned for it, and I'm proud of it. So, any other questions? Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.